So it feels like the big surge of people joining the webinar has stopped. So I think the people that had a bit of a back-to-back meeting are there. So I guess we can get started with today's webinar. So from my side, a very warm welcome to all of you. Happy that this morning there are already so many people interested about patents and joining us. I as well believe it's a really nice topic for today, something really very close to my heart, and which I basically discuss with more or less all of the customers I'm taking care of. So that's why I'm happy that there's such big of an interest. And just as a starting point, so the ones that don't know me, my name is Viktor. And at IamIP, I'm on the one hand the product manager, but I'm as well heading the customer success team. So really the ones that help all of our customers working with IamIP. And actually with me today, I have another person. You see it here. So
hello, good morning, everyone. Happy to be here. My name is Zack Amir. I'm CEO and partner and co-founder of Patentest. Normally, I'm located in our Swedish office in Stockholm. I have an engineering background, and I've been working with patent information and IP strategy since 2007. Thank you, Victor.
Perfect. I think great. Thanks, Zack, as well. Thanks, Zack, for taking your time and supporting us here. Highly appreciated. And as well as addressed at the beginning, I think we have something really important to talk about today. And that's why we not only provide, let's say, theory today, we will as well have a few hands-on cases. And I hope that all of you can take something with you today for your practical work afterwards. Accordingly, I think a good time to transition. So meaning, what are we going to talk about today? Of course, for the ones that don't know us, we have a very short introduction at the beginning, but really briefly, and then start with a quick background, where we not only have a general background, but as well address a number of typical challenges that we are facing when we work with, let's say, our customers. And of course, we not only want to talk about the challenges, but really how you can overcome. So therefore, in the second half of today, we will be talking about, on the one hand, possible ways of solving the problem. And we as well show a few examples. So IamIP has again been very active in different other business units, business areas. And we would like to show you two examples before we then come on the one hand to conclusions, and as well as the questions and answer session. So meaning all of you that have joined, and I think you have this side panel from GoToWebinar with you, where you have a chat bubble. So please feel free to ask any questions that you have, and we will then take those up towards the end of the meeting. Good, but then let's go further. So first of all, a short introduction to who we are. We have, of course, two companies here at hand today. And if I may just start from IamIP side, now you see it here, we are now more than 12 years old. So already, let's say, quite a long time active. And our focus from IamIP is really to provide an easy to use third-party patent handling tool. So meaning our focus is on a very easy collaboration and monitoring software. And as of today, our key markets are Europe, specifically the German-speaking countries and the Scandinavian countries. And I think what is quite unique with us that we have a very good customer success team. So consisting of both product specialists and as well of patent specialists, which really help all our customers out. And then throughout last year, I think we made a really nice, let's say, strategic move, because as we really focus on the software per se, where we want to put our whole attention, we of course know there are a lot of requests coming up from our customers about help for searches, monitoring setups, and that's what I'm so happy to have as well Zack with me today, because we started, I think, beginning of last year, this collaboration between IamIP and Patentest, because Patentest is really a search and patent analytics specialized consultancy company. You see, they are already quite established, more than 20 or around 20 years, exactly 20 years now on the market. That means they are really specialized in FTO searches, prior art searches, technology scanning, as well in the combination with IamIP. So results can be delivered in IamIP, and even, for example, monitorings can right away be set up by Zack and his team in IamIP. But let's stop here. Now, this is not the main topic as of today, and therefore I would like to hand the word over to you, Zack.
Yeah, so thank you, Viktor, for the introduction. It's of course very exciting to run this webinar with you. Very, very interesting topics, and we look forward for this long-term partnership. So why actually a search organization and monitoring platform decide to collaborate? Why are we actually standing here together? So IamIP is a world-class search monitoring platform. And you could see a search engine like a high-powered telescope scanning the vast skies of patent information. But the skies are obviously huge and full with millions of stars. At Patentest, we are, as Viktor told you, experienced patent engineers skilled in the art of searching. So creating search strategies and strings is what we actually do daily. We help you actually to pinpoint this high-powered telescope to exactly what you need to see. And that is what the search organization actually brings to the table. But identifying the relevant information is only the beginning. And once the information is in the monitoring platform, it's like having a smart assistant that keeps watch the skies for you. Tracking changes, alerting you on new discoveries, ensuring that you always have the latest information available. By working together, we don't just find what you need once, we stay on top of it, making sure you always have the most current relevant data. So the partnership between IamIP and Patentest is not just about combining our services, it's about offering you a seamless experience that we hope will save you time and keep you informed and efficient.
Great. So thanks, Zack, for that part. Before we now continue with the theory part, we would like to have a little bit of an interaction with all of you so that we can as well have some activity all together, and therefore I would like to know a little bit like how is the weather on your ends, so that we just get a little bit started all together. So is it sunny, is it cloudy, is it rainy, is it snowy on your side? I see already some people that have some raining. I can just tell you from Cologne it is somehow nice. So we have a bit of a cloud, but the sun is coming down, so I think that's really great, and a lot of people seem to have a really good weather today, and I'm happy that there's no snow. So great, perfect. So let's continue then with actually the next part. So that after we have now getting started, and you all are familiar with the Mentimeter, what I would really like to know is as well, how do you let's say, what is your role, and from which perspective are you looking at the webinar today, so that we can as well see where we maybe tweak a little bit the coming presentation. So we have a number of patent responsible IP managers. So no R&D manager. Okay, someone is there. So really, I think a nice variety. Of course, with the IP managers as the main responsible, but I'm really happy to see that there's a broad interest, and I hope that all of you will as well find something good in the coming presentation. So let's continue then further with our background. So over to you, Zack, again.
Yeah, so a short reminder of what we talked about in our last seminar. Hopefully some of you joined class St. Dimitris. We explored the structure phase gate model and how we are integrating IP searches and the information into each phase, crucial for spotting opportunities, avoiding risks, and ensuring project success. At gate 0 to 1, the feasibility phase, we emphasized thorough searches to gain a clear current technological landscape. This step is all about making informed decisions with accurate data, assessing our IP portfolio, understanding the need for licensing, and strategizing on how to protect our innovation. Moving to gate 2, we are in the heart of R&D with our well-established understanding of the technological playing field and competitors. We initiate patent monitorings, very important. We let the advanced IamIP tool track new information, changes, freeing us to innovate. By then, we hopefully have different patentability questions. Then the patentability searches then fill in any blanks, helping us refining the monitoring as our project evolves. By gate 5, if earlier stages were managed correctly, our FTO review should have very few surprises, dealing mainly with new project features that were not known from start and possibly unique production aspects. All this is a very short summary of our strategic approach to a successful project through IP integration. This naturally brings us to our challenges. We have collected valuable patent information from the early feasibility study right through to the launch phase. The key now is not just safeguarding this knowledge, but also having it ready for instant use. So you should try to imagine a library packed with innovation, books, but no index to guide us. How quickly can we actually find the book we need? We lose valuable time in searching. Should consider cross-department collaboration. Your teams, regardless if next door or in different time zone, they all need the same information at the same time. Without unified system, it's almost an impossible mission. Diverse purposes, each department from R&D innovators to legal protectors has unique demands. We need a system that can actually fulfill the needs for everyone. So here you can try to imagine assembling several different pictures from hundreds of puzzle pieces. That challenge with our varied project data. Without a streamlined system, it's an intimidating task. All these are hurdles we need to overcome to make our IP work for us and not against us. Moving on to the enduring nature of patents, we all know that they can be in play for up to 2 decades, and that's a very long time in the tech world. We have to keep tabs on them to make sure they stay relevant and don't step on anyone else's toes. So you could say it's like I normally say it's like keeping a garden. You need to nurture it, but also to make sure your plants don't overrun your neighbor's yard. Then there is, of course, the overflow of new publication to keep an eye on. It's vital to have a system that not only tracks all this information, but also slots it neatly into our strategy. We need an intelligent filter. It's like an intelligent filter that not only slots through the news that can really shape our next move. Of course, there is the challenge of integrating new projects. Every new venture brings its own set of IP information that need to mesh with our existing data. This is exactly where a dynamic, project-friendly database like IamIP becomes essential, keeping everything in tune for us. Innovation and R&D insight, it is vital to tap into global patent database early. It's not just about gathering information, it's about sparking innovation, shape out new paths, and avoiding the costly mistake of doing what's already been done. It's also not enough to have the data. We must understand the IP landscape so we can actually guide our leadership towards decisions that match with our strategic goals. Informed choices lead to clear direction and meaningful innovation. Efficient operation and a competitive advantage. This is actually where the rubber meets the road. Analytics help us cut through the noise, streamlining IP operation for a sharper competitive edge. This is about transforming data into actionable intelligence that pushes us forward. Lastly, risk mitigation, the safety net, you could say the safety net of our operation. With our systematic FTO searches and pattern monitorings, we are not just reacting to threats, we are anticipating them. This foresight is key to avoiding legal complication and keeping our project on track and without costly delays. Last slide here is showing again the overwhelming amount of information we need to handle. About 100,000 new publications, over 1 million legal status changes weekly, and about 3.5 million new publications worldwide. This is obviously no longer possible to manage all this manually using the old Excel spreadsheets. Victor will take over here, and hopefully he will lead us through some of the main principles and strategies for managing this vast amount of information.
Perfect. Thanks, Zack. And now I think we have heard really a lot about the challenges. So let's therefore take one last more general question to all of you, because it's a public webinar. So I think everything is possible. Where do you store the data? Is it Excel, IamIP, SharePoint? Do you use other tools? And please don't be shy. So everything is a valid point. So yeah, a lot of other tools as well, a lot of IamIP tools, and really interested that so far, one excellent SharePoint. I was already a bit skeptical there. Great, but then I think the vast majority is really working in digital tools already, so that's great. So let's jump back. So now after we have heard and listened to all the different challenges, let's now really look at how can we actually solve it. And therefore I think the first point is where can we actually store patent data? And in IamIP, what we relate to the patent storage, actually the portfolios. So at the end of the day, portfolios are the patent list, and patents that you are finding, you can actually add into these portfolios. And I always like to compare it a bit to, let's say, Dropbox or SharePoint. So meaning this is the lowest level of storing data, and then you can there collaborate really in real time and involve your colleagues and other relevant persons. And as you can see here, you can have no limits on these portfolios, so you can have as many as you want, and you can sort of really split it to technologies, products, or the searches. But one thing which is really critical when we talk about the accessibility, that you can decide yourself, okay, who should access which data, and therefore you can really control this somehow strategic asset management. But in many cases, it's not just enough to have the portfolios per se. It's as well often possible to go even one level deeper. And therefore, we in IamIP provide additional means, so that you can put, for example, a clear connection of the criticality to a patent, that you can clearly connect the patent documents to a product or a technology, or even the status. And therefore, if we begin with the first one, a bit like a binary yes or no, this is what we use for that we call the tags. And you see now just a few examples here on the right hand side. So meaning We can use tags typically for technology assignment, product assignments. And then if you need to be a bit more granular, so meaning if you have some kind of a varying range, now this is something where the rankings can be used. So for example, to evaluate the relevance of patent documents. And one thing that we think is really critical here, to have as well the multi-dimensions covered. And therefore, just like you see at the bottom, an example, for example, that you say, I want to have one dedicated relevance for the legal people to make legal assessments. I want to have the, let's say, product management involved, that they have a dedicated market relevance. And of course, most important, that we have a dedicated technical relevance for our R&D people. And on top of that, because when you work in a team and when you have to manage a lot of different opinions, it's as well critical, like you see here, that if many people are involved, that each input is transparent to the team, that in this case, okay, there are quite a big gap between Jonas and Viktor's opinion. And therefore, maybe another question, and let me now go back to the poll again. So I'm really curious to see, like, what are you using? Is it do you use tags, rankings, drop-down menus? Don't you use anything, or do you use all? So what are your ways of structuring your data? Wow, a lot of people that use all, a lot of people that use tags. So quite impressive. So, wow, so more and more people use everything. Great. Then let's go back to the presentation. And so now we talked a lot about, let's say, what type of categorization schemas and let's say enrichment schemas can we use. But what does it actually mean? Where is it actually used? And this is a thing important when we think about the lowest level work on any patent tool. It's always about the single patent documents. And therefore, from a typical workflow for the end users, you always work in your, let's say, daily work with those things. So for example, when the new patents are captured, you may want to assign them to a certain technology or product when you use the according tagging. Then you have the rankings for the relevance, like we discussed. And I think that's really important if you think about let's say meetings when we are in a project phase and we have maybe a gate meeting like Zack addressed coming around, then it's important that we can quickly see which patents do we need to discuss. And therefore, if you see, for example, that the technical relevance has been ranked 3-star by 50 people, we don't need to discuss this patent. But if there's maybe just a few which are 5-star, these we need to discuss. And if you have a few patents which are ranked 1 and 5 and 3 by many people, so we have a lot of different opinions, then we need to discuss those as well. So meaning the preparation time for meetings can really be significantly improved if we have something like this in the daily operations. And as well, that leads to clearer decisions, for example, in project phases. One additional point which I would like to address, and which we as well shouldn't keep, let's say, out of our sight, is really the different personas that are involved in a tool such as IamIP. From our perspective, even from the past when we were working in the industry, it is somehow critical that not just, let's say, patent people can access patent information. I mean, somehow it is very critical for the whole organization. But I guess you can all imagine that the need from an R&D engineer is quite different to patents than the need from an IP manager. And that's why we really believe it is critical to have these different types of inputs, because imagine you're now a product manager, you want to quickly know which patents are connected to my product X, where I'm responsible for. So meaning for this person, for example, the product X tag is most critical. He enters a tool, he filters for this, let's say, tag product X, and he has all he needs. If you think from the glasses of an R&D engineer, I mean, he is mainly interested on getting new technology and getting inspiration for his own R&D work. So for him, for example, the case of having a quick access to all critical patents from a technical perspective, so meaning from the ranking technical relevance, this is all that he cares. If we now talk about the IP managers, and that's why I was as well happy that so many people are from this group are here. I mean, you want to know, let's say, where do I potentially have a challenge? So meaning for you, for example, the IP ranking would be most critical to have a clear risk status. So meaning what I just want to say, it is somehow important to have these different dimensions so that every persona can quickly get access to the data that he or she needs. Okay, so now we had a lot of theory so far. So meaning what can we use in order to structure our data? But I guess it's still a question like, but how could that now look like in reality? And therefore, what I'm often discussing with my customers is at the beginning, as a first step, I mean, how do we structure our patent portfolios? So meaning, this is some of the initial discussion that you would need to take within your company, and there are typically two best practices, I would call it, two different approaches, which have a very, very big impact on how you work with IamIP and how you have to set up your data. Please always think about what Zack has described at the beginning. You imagine you have like this big library, and you maybe just look for this one book. Now, how can you quickly get access to this book? And therefore, there are now two ways. Now, on the one hand, what you see on the left-hand side, what we call the centralized approach, is that you really have just one patent list where everything comes in. So meaning, no matter if you make a search, if you have a monitoring 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, everything is basically stored in one portfolio. I see Zack is nodding. So, and then we have on the right-hand side the second approach, which we call decentralized, and this is really the way that you have for every activity just one portfolio. So you have one search, everything is in the according search portfolio stored. You have one per monitoring, one per technology, one per product. So that you have really this one centralized purpose per portfolio. And therefore, of course, we are really curious, and as they are quite different, those two things. So would be great to hear from the audience. I mean, what are you doing? How do you store data? Is it rather the centralized approach, meaning that you just have one portfolio, everything is stored, or do you rather have the decentralized approach? And started quite similar, but now it seems, okay, decentralized is a bit more, but not a big difference. So it seems that somehow both have their validity, and that's as well what I feel from the discussions with my customers, that there's always I mean, both are really valid and good ways to structure the data. And therefore, to bring a bit more, let's say, maybe light into the discussion, I would just like to share a few pros and cons here on this matter. And meaning, if we start to first look at the centralized approach, what I think is like really, really critical here, and this is what some of you need to ensure when you're working with this, is the centralized approach really only works if you have a good structure on a lower level for categorization. So I mean, you need to have tags, for example, per technology, per product. You need to have rankings, drop-down menus. Otherwise, if you just have one big list of 20,000 patents, it will not work. So I mean, this is somehow the prerequisite. But if you have that, there are really a number of pros and cons. And what is, I think for me, one of the really outstanding things is that you have a very easy way of knowledge sharing. You have a very easy way of finding. Everybody knows all what is important is in this global portfolio. And as well, if you think about transparency and as well control from the management side, they as well have everything at their fingertips. And the last point as well, quite important, you don't have any data duplications. You just store your patents in this one and everything is there. On the contrary, of course, there are a number of, let's say, challenges here. So you continuously need to manage that structure. Imagine you have a new product, a new technology, there need to be new tags added to, for example, to your structure. If you then go to really huge data sizes, 10,000s of documents, of course, the complexity will increase, and therefore as well, dedicated user training is needed. So that's quite important for success. And then, of course, one thing we just have to bear in mind that there's no way to limit the access to the according portfolio. Good. Then looking at the other side, so if we look at the decentralized approach, now where we now only are supported by the portfolios, I think what is there really an advantage, like every portfolio has just one purpose. It has a purpose for an FTO search, for a prior art search, for the relevant documents for product X, for example. So it's a very easy and straightforward process. It's very easy to structure like who should access what, and it's easy to set up. You just set up the portfolio, save data there, and off you go. But on the other hand, imagine that at the end of the day, you may have 700 portfolios to control. So it can get very confusing, complicated, and as well for the person that actually handles it, it's quite sophisticated from the access right management. And of course, there's a very strong disadvantage on knowledge sharing, because if you don't open up all portfolios to everybody, I mean, you don't know what is said about the same patent in another portfolio. And that goes aligned with this duplication. Imagine you're working one technical area and you maybe have 5 projects up and running, and one patent is relevant for all the 5 projects. In this structure, you will have 5 duplications of the patents with potentially separated inputs. So it can be quite a huge, let's say, duplication of data. So therefore, just to compare both sides, I mean, we talked about it before, so I will not go into the details, but I mean, just looking at pros and cons, and as well what I often hear from customers, the centralized approach has a bit more of advantages and less cons than the decentralized approach. But as always, this is just top level. Every customer, every user is different. So both have their purposes and work fine. And therefore, one thing that we have concluded from our experiences with working with our customers is when they ask me, okay, Victor, what should I do? What should I choose? Normally, when we conclude for one or the other, these are the typical, let's say, indicators that you are either centralized or decentralized. So meaning the centralized approach works very well when you have across your whole organization interlinked areas, and maybe technologies which are similar, products which are similar, so meaning where there is a lot of overlap, and where you as well somehow want to foster knowledge sharing. And in line with the other points, if you have a streamlined process which is identical across the whole organization, this is as well then a very good way, because everybody that works in the global portfolio needs to use the same structure. And I think as well something important to align here, if you really think about the management perspective, and if you're maybe even a big company and you have, somehow getting an overview of all the underlying structures, this is as well really helpful to keep your transparency and overview. On the other hand, the decentralized approach, now this really works quite well if you have very separated technologies or business units, or even maybe subsidiaries that don't have anything to overlap. So meaning then it works really well, because you can then really apply different processes per, let's say, portfolio. You anyway don't have that big need of knowledge sharing, or maybe there's a clear, let's say, a guideline from the top level that we only have to share information on a need-to-know basis. And as well, if you have really like not a lot of patenting activity, this works as well quite nice. But to highlight, it is always a difficult decision, and we have a lot of experience on guiding our customers there. So really feel free to reach out if you have any challenges, because what's important, there are ways to go from a global to a centralized to a decentralized and vice versa, but it's quite challenging, because not only on the data restructuring, you have to make a new training for the whole organization. So my recommendation is always really take your time here, and rather take a week more to discuss, and then really take the right one and commit to this one. But always in life, things are not just black and white. So meaning it's not just the one or the other. Something which are seen taking more and more place as well on our customer side is what I call the hybrid approach. And this really basically just takes the global portfolio from the top level, one level downwards. So meaning that you may have multiple global portfolios in your organization. So meaning that you still have these advantages of knowledge sharing, of easy finding, of a centralized process, but you can make it a bit more flexible. So like you see here, and maybe there are two departments, technologies working together. So this is as well something that we can really save a lot. And as well, to be transparent, and what you can think of, we can still have then on top of this one really global portfolio. So meaning that everything that is on the lower level global portfolios can be as well duplicated in this one centralized. And this is maybe then somebody really from the top level that can access that data. Good, but then going back to one more generic question for all of you. So how do you generally see on, let's say, having this centralized database where basically the whole organization can work with and share knowledge? So who of you globally share information, and who of you rather keeps it, let's say, separated? Okay, even some don't know, so maybe we can put some good seeds for further discussions internally here in the audience. So yeah. Okay, so a bit more on the no side, but not a lot of difference. So
it let us something to talk about, definitely.
Exactly.
The importance and the ability to use this information.
Exactly. Great. But then let's really take the next step. So now we have the challenges that were introduced. We have shown a few examples of how you could use, for example, things like tags in your life and how you could structure. But maybe let's really have a hands-on case. So how could that be working? And therefore, first of all, what I would like to share is the typical day-to-day business for really an end user, so a person that works with reviewing patent documents and storing them in one of those two structures that we shared. And I will just go through one typical workflow for monitorings. We will not talk about it deeper. There will be a coming webinar talking purely on workflows. So please, I mean, this will be addressed later on, but just to get a feeling. So we have our, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 monitorings up and running, right? Or even a search it could be. The new patents are captured on a Monday. And then on a Tuesday, the first important action takes place that we talked about. So a responsible person or a team checks those new patent documents and then uses the prepared, for example, tagging and ranking structure. Not relevant patents are, for example, moved to somehow a trash bin or are removed. And the ones which are relevant, they are then stored in either the centralized or this decentralized approach. That's why I kept it a bit flexible here. If it is now one or multiple, and this is then the place where you really collaborate in the team. So just the typical flow. And we have now two cases that we want to share. So first of all, if I begin here as addressed IamIP, we really like bikes. So meaning we are not just IamIP, we as well have our new company, IamBikes. There's some of you which are maybe joining us for several webinars already. You may have seen this activity. And what we are doing is to really provide nice bikes for the, let's say, mountain bikes, that we can have some good traveling through the woods. And of course, what is really fundamental for these bikes is that you have a good suspension. And therefore, we only provide, let's say, two key products, if you may call it like this. So on the one end, we have a front fork suspension that you see here, which is making the damping. And at the same time, we have another suspension like this on the rear part of the bicycle. And of course, I think it's directly obvious somehow, there's a lot of overlapping technology in it. Maybe both dampers are done with springs or with oil or whatever, but there are a lot of overlaps. And that's why we, within IamBikes, have decided that we actually go for the centralized approach in this case. So what does it mean? If we look a little bit back on the previous slides, when we talked about these portfolios that we can use on the lowest level to structure the data, in our IamBikes company, it looks very, very neat and plain and fine. Just like you see, we only have basically just one patent list, just one global portfolio. You see there's this bubble, which indicates that we have shared this patent to other people, to our whole company actually. So meaning everybody at IamBikes knows if they want to get access to any patent, they open IamIP and they only open the global portfolio. Everything is there. So very easy, very straightforward. We have a centralized approach. And if you think about the previous slide about this workflow, when we get patents, when we review it, what do we require for our users? And first of all, we have put a lot of thoughts in the tagging structure. You may recall, and it's really this binary, it is either yes or no. And we have decided on the one end to provide the taggings to our products. So you see we have 4 different products. And the technology, which you see here on the right-hand side, marked in red. But this was not just enough for us, because we have a number of projects ongoing right now, and we always want to as well keep track on those. So we had a third dimension to it. And for any types of searches, we as well want to have a clear assignment to those. That's why you see here at the bottom that we have really for all the dedicated searches as well a dedicated tag. And what was really important for us, saving time, keeping it efficient, keeping it fast, and therefore we as well use this different coloring schema that you see. So whenever you see yellow, you know, aha, this is to our product. Whenever you see, for example, green, you know it's from the type of suspension. So you can as well here make really nice assignments and nice visual ways of being fast. Going along from the rankings, as said, we have this granularity, and we have actually as well one IP manager, we have one product manager per product, and then we have the different R&D teams. And that's why we as well decided we would like to have 3 separate rankings where we have clearly defined who should use what. As mentioned, training is important, so R&D know that they will work just on the technology, and their assignment is only, or assessment is only on the technical solution. They don't work on any legal assessments. So this is really helping us a lot. And last but not least, thinking about the statuses. For us, it's really critical to know where we are with our third-party patents. And that's why we set up this drop-down menu about actions. So meaning that we have an expert opinion possible. And you may know in IamIP we have automations that directly trigger something else. Or that we set up a legal status watch where the IP team is informed. So we transparently know where we are on things. And therefore, just a very quick look. This is how it would look like. If we now talk about one patent document in this global portfolio, we have the product assignment, technology assignment. We directly know this by the coloring, that everything is there that we need. And similar for the rankings, we clearly know how important it is from a technology perspective, and we as well know the next step. So for everybody in IAM Bikes, this is really perfect. Going along to our second subsidiary, we all like coffee. It really has the perfect taste for us, and that's why we as well want to support the coffee side with our second company, IamCoffee. And we actually have two products. We have on the one hand cups, and then as well we produce coffee. And I think we can quite clearly see that there's no real technical overlap. So they're very much independent, not connected. And that's why we decided, okay, we will actually run the decentralized approach. And maybe that's now a bit of an extreme case, but how does it look like? As well, just a bit of a view here. When we think about our portfolio and folder structure, because now even the folders come into place. And you see that really for every product, for every search, for every technology, we have a dedicated folder and portfolio. And we even separate the relevance by this. Like you see, biodegradable coffee cups, interesting portfolio. So meaning we don't use, for example, the rankings. Everything connected to this product or technology and is important is in this one here on the, so this one here, exactly, interesting. So meaning in comparison to before, where it's just one portfolio, we now have theoretically 50, 60 portfolios addressing those different parts. And of course, looking at the tags, rankings, and drop-down menus, actually these ones, oh, sorry. I think I'm talking too much. So meaning for text, ranks, and drop-down menus, there's really no need in this case because as addressed before, every portfolio has like a one-dimensional purpose and it's very clear what they're about, so there's no need for this part. And then, of course, looking at the patent documents, they don't have any text, rankings, or drop-down menus. They are purely linked to what they are by the portfolio they are assigned to. Okay, that brings us already to the very, very last slide. So meaning, if you think a little bit about what we heard before, so meaning with a summary and the conclusions, I think we can just relate by what we have seen and heard from Zack before that there's really a number of big challenges, mainly driven really by this huge amount of patents that are published. And I always like this example of the libraries and the books, and there's a big need to somehow quickly find what we are looking for. Of course, there are always different departments, different personas and purposes involved. So meaning we have not just the one thing that we need to fulfill. We have multiple things to resolve. And therefore, what we could really see is that a good structure and category is really critical. And for example, in this IamBikes case, we could clearly see that tags, ranks, drop-down menu are some of the enabler for having this knowledge database that you can have it. Then, as we addressed, there are different ways going forward. For the structure of the data, we have centralized, decentralized, and the hybrid approach. Everything has pros and cons. So there's not just the one fits all solution. It is always like unique for the different use cases. And as addressed, if you have any questions there, need any guidance, really feel free to reach out to us. We are there to support. But at the end, just to highlight what are now the key benefits for such a database. And on the one hand, you can really ensure business continuity because the whole organization knows where is my important data stored. In the decentralized approach, an important portfolio. In the centralized approach, you maybe have this 5-star ranking. So even if somebody's sick or on vacation, you can continue. You as well have a risk mitigation because everything that is somehow important is clearly assigned there. So you know I have 5 critical patents which we are currently working on. So it's very transparent. And this, of course, as well helps you in the decision making. If you know at a gate 4 or 5 when you have to decide to go to production or not, you clearly know in my project X, I currently have blockers. I cannot go to production. I need to wait until I have a clearance. Or on the other way, okay, I know there's nothing in there and I can actually proceed really with productionizing the tool. And then the last 2 points, of course, as a key benefit, it's very easy to share knowledge. And as well for your colleagues, it's very easy to access the data when they need it. All is at the fingertips. They know exactly I need to go into this global portfolio or this decentralized portfolio, and that's it. Zack, anything to add here before I jump on?
No, I think it's good you mentioned a hybrid solution because I think from our experience, this has been used by many customers because companies tend to hopefully to grow, and as they grow, they lose track with the decentralized solution. So it could be wise to even if you choose the decentralized solution to open one big box anyway for the centralized solution, and even if you do some basic tagging in the beginning, so you give your management the possibility to have the overall view of what is being done there. So it could be wise to keep it in mind.
Great. Then looking at the time, we have the perfect time. So everything was really in line with what we have planned for. So we have now a few more minutes to take up any questions that you have on those databases and maybe approaches or tagging structuring or ranking structuring. So I don't know, from the support side, do we already have some?
We do, yeah, we just have a couple of questions, kind of all around the same in relation to tags. Victor, if you want to take those first. Just somebody wants to know, can you give access to tags only, or do you have to give access to tags and rankings together?
It's possible to give access to either of those. So the beauty in IamIP is that you somehow, as a power user, centrally create those tags, ranks, drop-down menus, for example. But then when you work, let's say, in a dedicated portfolio, you can then decide in here I use only, let's say, these rankings or these drop-down menus. The same for the tagging. We had now recently a case where a customer chooses hybrid approach because he has like 3 different business units and they are really separated. And then we centrally prepare, we centrally maintain the global tagging structure with several hierarchy levels. And in each of these 3 sub-global portfolios, let's call it like this, we only activate a part of the tag tree, so that the people working on, let's say, biodegradable cups, I mean, they are not interested in seeing stuff about roasting beans or making coffee. It will just would just increase their selection process. So you can really tailor make what is accessible in which portfolio.
Okay, you just answered my next question.
Okay.
That's good. And just for you, Zack, somebody was just wondering that, do you help to set up the monitoring or do you work with what they already have?
Well, both is correct. You could either ask us to control what you already have, or you can ask us to get it up and running. Normally, a customer will then open us as a user under IamIP, and then they can share the monitoring, the portfolio they have, and the monitoring. We can access and look in the strategy and strings created, and we can fix it based on the information you provide us. So it's of course very important customer provide the background information about what they actually want to capture. And it's always, of course, possible to make a meeting in order to really understand, dive deeper into what you actually want to capture in the monitoring. And it goes the same even for the other searches. You simply share it with us through the folder and on information, and we can then upload the results to the dedicated portfolio you want, including the report.
I think what's very nice just to address here, in every portfolio you have as well a general information section where exactly like Zack said, you can upload reports, you can have even general, let's say, comments or description on the portfolio per se. So it's really taking all pieces of information up.
Yeah, we spoke about the workflow, and we will, of course, maybe in future seminars we'll talk about it, but this is the beauty here, that you can actually share with a task with external experts.
Perfect. I think that's really all we probably have time for, I think.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there are one or two questions more. We still have, I think, 2 minutes left. But
oh, perfect. I have just a question about portfolio structure. Is there a limit to the amount of folders that you can use, or what's the best way to do
I mean,
that?
there are actually no limits. So it's really you can have as many portfolios or folders you want. We have now one case that we set up last year, actually, where we have like 700 portfolios ish. So it is possible. Luckily, there that let's say only the one IP manager has those 700 portfolios. The R&D people only have 2 or 3, so that works. But you just have to be really aware that the maintenance for the person that is somehow orchestrating all those portfolio gets really complicated, because you somehow need to decide like on every portfolio level who should get access and who not. But there are no limits. You may have seen it in one of the screenshots as well from my side. You can make like hierarchy structures. That you say technology is a folder, technology 1 is subfolder, technology sub is a second folder, and there put your portfolios in. So
I think Viktor, as you mentioned, if a company reaches to a situation when they open many folders, it's a good warning sign that maybe a centralized approach is more usable and feasible.
Exactly. Good. Okay, but then just very, very briefly, the lookout, I think we talked before. The next webinar will address more the workflow of how you can collaboratively work in IamIP connected to monitorings. The exact date is not yet defined, so feel free to have a look at our webinar homepage and stay tuned, and we will announce the date of the next webinar there. With that said, thanks a lot, Zack, for joining. It was a pleasure to have you here, and as well, thank you to the whole audience, and yeah, looking forward to the next webinar then.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.